Facing the Hydra by Eric Wright. 1. Not long after I was discharged in 2012, a 24-year-old, I sat at the bar of the Union Club. I sat there often, as well as many other bars. I figured bars were the appropriate scene for me. Dim lit, the bartender knew me by my first name. We would greet each other, and after some time, I'd allude to the fact that I'd been through some shit, then lie and tell her I was doing quite well that day, and, quote, I will take another PBR, tall boy, and a shot of whiskey, thank you. To which she'd respond, here you are, hun. It's the kind of interaction I expected, because I'd seen it on TV, only this was worse. I questioned, where is the high-stakes poker table? Where are all the girls looking to shake me of my money? There wasn't a chance I'd be meeting another desperado at high noon the next day to have a gunfight. Some western town Missoula is. There was, however, the poet, a Vietnam veteran, who I found out was published in the local bookstore and engaged me in a conversation that I could never recall, but nonetheless sent chills down my spine. There was a South American-looking fellow who I saw 100 times riding his bike around downtown. Turns out he jumped into Panama with a Ranger battalion, an interpreter who helped in the drug war. And there was the guy my age who talked about revolution until I informed him, I've seen the guys the army recruits to squash revolutions. They're mutants without conscience, and they have every tool of war at their disposal. They will come for you at night, and you won't even hear them. He looked angrily at me, the messenger, thought over my words, then walked away, dejected. 2. 10 years later, I went to the beach with my girlfriend. The next day, she would become my fiancée, and I suppose my second wife, after my first wife, the mother of my daughter, and I got divorced. The only other times I'd been to California were for government business, to train for deployment, and to fight wildfire. I was supposed to relax. I had a beautiful, pregnant, blonde-haired, blue-eyed babe next to me, the California girl herself, in her hometown, the dream every dopey Midwesterner could ever hope for. I was living it. Surfers rode the waves. My daughter got buried up to her neck by a Hispanic family behind me. But I felt off. I felt like something expelled from the land waiting to be washed into the great Pacific garbage patch. 3. The previous summer, on the radio, I heard air attack, the plane flying overhead providing coverage and reports on our position. The pilot warned of an imminent wind shift. Apparently, wind shifts happen fast and with great force in that part of eastern Montana. If there is fire on the ground, watch out. There was fire on the ground. It burned rapidly through scrub pine and tall grass, and sure enough, the wind shifted. Our crew was digging a contingency line up a ridge, and I, near the top, repeatedly swung my Pulaski to break up the dirt. Looking over my shoulder, I saw smoke bend towards our position. It grew blacker as fire leapt out of a draw. Another crew ahead of us was conducting burnout operation on the primary line. The idea was to burn off enough fuel in front of the fire so it could not leap over the line when it neared them. But then, with the wind shift, the main fire and the fire they lit turned on them with double the force. It's terrible, but as the smoke and flame curled over them, my first thought was, those guys are toast. This became the Devil's Creek incident. 4. In the photograph, my great-great-uncle sits among killers, and he, a killer himself, wears a ribbon to signify his involvement in the William Clark Quantrill raid on Lawrence, Kansas. Uncle Tatum was a Confederate guerrilla escorting Jesse James's mom to a reunion commemorating that massacre. Every man or boy old enough to hold a gun was shot in the street. A retaliation for a retaliation for a retaliation in the bloody border wars between Missouri and Kansas, what generations of my family are born from. 5. 2 years after our engagement, I walked into our backyard. The chickens my fiancé and I raised since they were chicks were headless. Several months later, I burst into tears, sobbing uncontrollably after cutting into a chicken thigh alone in a rented apartment that I share with my parents. Sometimes the emotions hit like this. Sometimes it takes months. Sometimes it takes years. 6. I was in Afghanistan. Would you like to see the skull? I asked my buddy. Without him even answering, because I was determined he would see it, I pulled a zip-locked bag from my backpack. The fragment in size was the size of my palm, sharp and bone-white around the edges, strands of hair still attached. We shared a moment before I put it away, all without words. Not long afterward, we boarded a helicopter to return to our base to deliver the fragment to investigators. 7. Can you give me permission to hate this other guy in her life? I asked my counselor. Sure, he said. If that's what you need right now, to pin all your angst and frustration onto one person. Just remember, you can't act on it. We sat in silence, me knowing I wouldn't act on it. Him, probably still a little unsure. There is a part of me that wishes I could meet him outside at high noon. 8. The easiest thing for me to do at times is disassociate, or just enter a world of my own imagination where I've imagined familiar characters. Seamus Flame Arrow, for instance, he is a ranger. With arrows lit aflame, he slays necromancers who perpetually resurrect dead spirits, werewolves who are overtaken by bestial urges, and mind flayers who bend his thoughts towards darkness. But of course, while navigating the crypts and shadow realms of human existence, Seamus needs a companion, or else he risks becoming what he fights, a creature of darkness. Thus, beside him walks Brother Kale, a monk trained in hand-to-hand martial combat. Kale is centered. He is without worry or need for vengeance. A brother in Christ. 9. My daughter was almost 2 years old. She had recently learned to walk, but after working on a hotshot crew all summer out of Utah, hours away from home, I was determined to carry her around the park, to keep her close, and there was good reason. My love, my daughter. You opened my eyes to the wonders I've locked out of myself. The tree bark was rough and broken beneath our fingers. Three flickers sang from the branches above us. We counted them, then bent low to behold earthworms emerging from the damp soil. 10. I was 26 years old when I decided to pick my leaden feet from the ground. Sometimes I could not seem to move them. The signs pointed me to a kickboxing and Muay Thai gym. I started attending classes 4 times a week, religiously. They were held in a basement in downtown Missoula, the hip strip, the area is called. Hot water pipes ran above us, turning the place into a sauna. Every night we practiced for 3 brutal hours, and the learning curve was steep. My thighs got bruised, my eyes blackened. Fighters prepared to fight in arenas. Fighters flew overseas to fight in Japan and Thailand. We were a team. We pushed each other, and every night I ascended street level into the Montana cold, drenched in sweat and steaming, resurrected. 11. To be an Army Ranger on a breaching team. To fly out in a helicopter in the middle of the night. To walk 10 miles so no one can hear you and blow a demolition charge on the gate of an IED maker. 21 years old. Invincible. Bang! We woke up our target, and not a minute later, I stood over the top of him as he stirred from sleep beneath heavy quilted blankets. We switched from night vision to bright lights, blinding him, pulled him from the covers, and separated him from the woman next to him. I bound his wrists in zip cuffs, and my teammate and I led him into the snow-covered courtyard. He had long black hair and beard. He had facilitated the detonation of multiple bombs that killed many Afghan civilians and U.S. soldiers. A senior leader told me if he moved, shoot him. The way he said it almost sounded like he could find an excuse for me to do it either way. I drew my sidearm from the holster and extended it a foot from his temple. We locked eyes briefly before he let his gaze lower and fixated on the ground. 12. Again, in my apartment alone, my son and daughter with their respective mothers, I relapsed. A woman on a dating app took interest in me and we met for beers. She was a large woman and broken, an alcoholic ex-husband stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington, the same place I was based. He abused her, she said. Then she had multiple miscarriages, and he left. We connected. Let's just not hurt each other, I told her, and we went to her place. A trailer park, red lights, large floor vases full of peacock feathers, a glowing martini bar sign. She showed me pictures of pounds of marijuana that she handled for work and a picture of her, young, blonde, thin. She was at a club go-go dancing in Seattle many, many years ago. As she undressed under the dim light of a bedroom, I saw a Norse goddess. You are beautiful, I told her. You are beautiful. And I meant it. 13. Among the many items inside the shadow box that hangs in my parents' guest bedroom, there is a piece of Nazi shrapnel. Shot from artillery, it exploded in the trees above my grandpa at the Battle of the Bulge and lodged inside his shoulder. He lay in the snow among his dead and dying comrades, and their position was overran. My great-grandpa told my grandpa, who was a sergeant in the Army Tank Corps, who told my uncle, who was on a Coast Guard counter-narcotics team, who told my dad, who did none of those things but was nonetheless a formidable athlete, that he had to play dead for 3 days to avoid capture. Then Patton's Third Army broke through, rescuing him. We owe our lives to them. 14. As I write this, my son is 2 years old, 4 years younger than his sister. Early one morning recently, I heard the swish of his diaper and his feet patter down the hall to me. I sat in a rocking chair after rising from sleep beside him not long before. He glanced at me in the blue dawn light and quickly pattered over to the magnetiles, his favorite toy. Magnetiles are colorful magnetic building tiles that allow children to creatively build 2D and 3D structures. He spent the previous evening constructing a box to fit his Hot Wheel toys into. He then presented the box to me. I would look inside, and he smashed the box, starting over again. Each time he tried to build the box taller until finally it collapsed and broke apart on its own. This morning, as though he'd been thinking about the tiles through the night, he immediately started constructing a wider base, collecting each of the disparate tiles, assembling them into a structure that would bear the weight of each piece stacked on top of it. While watching his attention, his focus on the task, I saw in him his mother, everything I love about her, and I saw in him the things I attempt to love about me. My love, my son. Whether it's within colorful building tiles or words, the most important things cannot be contained. 15. I'm sorry, I told my daughter's mom. I'm sorry too, she said. We were out in public together for the first time since our divorce, eating slices of pizza. Years later, our daughter sat beside her, joyful. That night, she appeared to me in a dream. She was radiant, glowing from the inside, and I couldn't be happier for her and her new life, for the stepsisters my daughter now has, for everything. 16. We blew a demolition charge on the wrong man's house. Not the first time. I could sense it as we tore through his things, as I tossed aside the pictures that he would have, in the daylight, happily invited me into his home to see, perhaps over tea. A teammate brought the man's son and daughter into the room, separating them from their parents, and I was to watch them. They had blankets drawn around them, but were visibly cold, thin, and shivering. My body armor was thick, knife and flashbang attached, ammo pouches with belts of 5.56 rounds, a large squad automatic weapon slung around my neck, and a Beretta 9mm on my hip. Deadly. Alien. I flipped my night vision goggles above my helmet and processed the moment with them. Forgive me, I wanted to say, although I didn't know the words. 17. At 37 years old, I re-entered a martial arts gym thinking I want to fight, believing in fact that I need to fight if I want to stay sober. I took an introduction to jiu-jitsu class, then a foundations class, then I got put into every submission in the book by guys who practiced the art for years longer than I. Still, I can strike, and the teacher at the gym commends me, praises me. I don't know what to say. It's been almost a decade since I threw fist. Keep coming back, he responds. The same response the jiu-jitsu guys give me. They don't know I don't have a choice. 18. When I proposed to my son's mom, it was perfect. A professional photographer was there. We chased our daughter, around the beach at sunset, waves lapping at her ankles. I gave her a gold and Montana sapphire ring. Later, I take back that ring out of anger. Then I return it out of regret. But by that time, it was too late. As this scene played out, I distinctly remembered a young woman watching us, standing not 50 feet away, visibly upset, crying. Did I imagine her? 19. Fizzlewick Bramblethorn appeared before Seamus and Brother Cale, mirage-like, in the smoke of a campfire, because, as often happens between two adventurers, there was just nothing more they had to say to each other. In the silence of that night, they scrolled through images for comedic relief, and also they needed a spellcaster. That's when they found him. Short in stature, bulbous of nose, wild-haired and bearded, a true forest gnome and a fine wizard, Seamus and Cale added Fizzlewick as a friend. 20. 50 feet away, a rocket exploded. It was the first to fall that close to me, although I'd been stationed at Fob Shank, a.k.a. Rocket City, for over 15 months. Did that just happen, or did I imagine it? I questioned, as smoke and dust blew over the top of me. Then I laughed. 21. My daughter just transitioned from a car seat to a booster seat and sat behind me on the passenger side. One day, as we were driving, she asked, "Dad, did you ever kill anyone when you were a soldier?" I had to pause. Then finally I responded, "No, I never killed anyone." "What did you do?" she asked. "I stole other dads out of their homes in the middle of the night." "Were they bad guys?" "Some of them were. They killed people, and they would have killed me. But some of them weren't. Some of them, who knows?" "Where did you take them when you stole them?" "We took them away." "Will anyone ever steal you?" "I wouldn't let them, baby." 22. If someone would have told me, "One day you will have a daughter and she will want to know everything," I would have told them, "She's privileged to all my heart, but not all that I know." 23. I hate Dixie, Idaho, even the name, the Southern outlaw roots, the worst parts of me there. Proud, arrogant, libertarian, and yet dependent on government men to save their ass. The whole place is log homes surrounded by pine, primed to burn decades ago. Also, it is in a hole, miles down a road, one way in, one way out, all of it green and ready to torch. We drove that road every day, an enormous smoke column hanging over us, waiting for the right wind shift to explode like an atom bomb, ripping across tree crowns on our position. I listened to air attack tell us that we needed to burn right away or get out. I listened to one senior tell another that there were no good safety zones. Salvage loggers stacked the road, blocking our way out, and finally embers started falling behind us, burning rapidly, trapping us in. Still we worked, stomping out spots, cutting line, chaining fuel away from the homes. Everyone else evacuated. The massive column rotated overhead in the still air. I couldn't sleep at night thinking of my daughter. I rehearsed ways of telling my supervisor that I was done, that I didn't need this shit anymore, while still saving face. Not possible. I was locked in for better or worse. We saved that town. 24. Sometimes you enter the underworld on a mission. Sometimes you just end up there. Seamus, Cale, and Fizzlewick, they just ended up there. For a while, they were able to discern a faint light glowing just ahead of them. It led them through passages dark and perilous before disappearing. "It is just us now," Cale said. Fizzlewick fumbled through some spells, and Seamus knocked an arrow. A massive Hydra rose before them, teeth bloody and gleaming in the glow of torches that sparked a flame, not with the assurance of daylight, but with blinding heat. 3 heads reared back. Addiction, loss, regret. 25. When the suicide bomber blew himself up, I heard the bang. I saw the pink mist not far from me. The idiot smattered himself across the armored plates of MRAPs instead of doing what he was supposed to do, detonate himself next to me. 2 medics trotted out with a stretcher and a body bag, surreally gleeful. They handed me the fragment of his skull. 26. It's important for me to remember there's no obligation to think about any of this anymore. The heads on the Hydra rear back and abruptly come to a mechanical halt. The torches along the walls go out. Complete blackness. Then bright fluorescents turn on. Seamus, Brother Kale, and Fizzlewick stand in a room, baffled by the automatron that they'd imbued with so much significance towering in front of them. Then the adventurers fade away, and it's just me.